What's up? Hey, what's good? What's poppin'? I am MsBerry. Welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you guys for sliding through and coming to kick it with me. As you guys can see from the title, I'm getting into something new. Something I actually have never seen before. The majority, am I saying it right? The Majority Report with Seder. This is Candace Owens says Black people should take responsibility for slavery. If you guys are familiar with my channel, then you know that I've been, taking a dive into Candace Owens, expanding my mind on this journey. So I'm pretty interested to see what he has to say. So let's get into it. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and press play.
So Candace Owens has a take on the recent death of Queen Elizabeth, and you'll be shocked to know that she has taken it upon herself to defend British colonialism within this context. This is her job, and she does it, I guess, wholeheartedly. Here she is being an apologist for colonialism for her white conservative audience.
But the real truth of the reason why people hate the Queen has nothing to do with the colonization. It has something to do, which, by the way, just to be clear, the Brits invading Africa actually represents, and this is going to get me in trouble, but it was, if you look at how forward it brought the African colonies, it ended up being a net positive. Now, this is, of course, it's going to get me in trouble because people somehow think that Africans were living happily ever after and things were great, and then the horrible British descended upon and murdered everybody, and the French suddenly murdered everybody, and that just isn't the truth. Obviously, the African nations had slavery, just like the European nations had slavery. Wow. So it's an evil that was not started, did not begin in Europe, actually. It can actually be traced back to Muslim origins.
All right, can you pause it, please? I'm sorry. There's a lot here. There's a lot here.
Yeah, this is Daily Stormer stuff, basically.
I mean, this is white supremacist talking points. That the if we could just bring it down really quick, like the British went to Africa to liberate them. They were primitive and they were not able to construct their own societies. And the British and the European white saviors went there to liberate them, as opposed to like carving up the entire continent in a haphazard way that would only be.
That's something I'm definitely gonna have to look up as well for myself. I can't really dispute anything or side with this or that because I don't really know a whole lot on that specific thing. So I think I'm going to do, not I think, but I'm going to do my research on that in particular so I can have a better perspective on it or better opinion on it, because now I'm interested. Now I want to know, like, what are you guys talking about?
Beneficial for capital, as opposed to like the explicit purpose of going there to enslave and traffic Africans. That was a net positive.
The Royal African Company, which was how the colonies got their slaves for about 100 plus years.
What she's arguing has never not been the argument in favor of colonialism. The idea that the primitive peoples of the world were rather savages and necessitated the yoke of the English, the yoke of like the Christian missionaries, the yoke of the Dutch, et cetera, has always been a talking point for racists and pro-colonialists since the beginning of colonialism. The idea that slavery existed triangle slave trade, new world slave trade is also a fact that people sort of misinterpret, because everyone knows that. Everyone's seen The Prince of Egypt. Like, speaking about animated movies, though not Disney, we've all seen The Prince of Egypt. What they don't like to acknowledge is that American slavery and American European slavery was inherently different from the slavery and the slave practices that existed previously in the world. Like a chattel race-based scientific race-based slavery was an invention of like the New World and like the post-rational, quote unquote, post-modernity Europe. So yeah, it was different, not different in name, but different in like all of the other qualities to it, in the sense that it created a racialized caste system.
Yeah, exactly. And set the world economy on fire with all that labor able to be exploited, right? Like that's how the Western hemispheres were settled. That all the work was being done by African slaves, often, or indentured servants, and they were all had it's a completely different thing than tribal slavery.
And it's a net positive for, say, like Europe and the Europeans there, because they both were able.
Those jewels on the Queen.
On one hand, we exploited free labor from slaves and trafficked human beings and murdered them and raped them as a way to construct our society and extract their wealth for without returning it to them. But on the other hand, we ended up feeling kind of really bad about it. So on the whole, though, a net positive.
But did we?
Net positive. Right.
Not even we felt bad about it, which they will pretend to do sometimes, but also that the cost to them, the African people, was worth it because we dragged them into modernity with us, i.e. the Western world. We dragged them from their caves and their bonfires into the modern world, in some ways kicking and screaming. And this was just part of an earlier teleological view of Western expansion as well in America. The idea that the cost to the native peoples here is high in terms of body, but we're saving their spirits or souls. We're bringing them to the future, the new world. And, the fact is that for the most part, we have moved beyond that talking point as a society to acknowledge that, bringing these, the modern world to the new world was entirely, I would say it's a disguise for brutal colonialism. It was purpose. The goal wasn't to spread Christianity or to spread, the Queen's sort of philosophy around every person being equal. It was to steal natural resources and to extract wealth.
Yeah, and I mean, do we need Indian Candace Owens to come and say the Raj was good too because they built all the railroads? Come on.
I mean, right, exactly. All right,
yeah, going. We should get. There's a few more interesting tidbits here.
Yeah. She's actually honestly seems like she's struggling through this one, even her.
European nations had slavery. So it's an evil that did not begin in Europe, actually. It can actually be traced back to Muslim origins. And for whatever reason, people have this fantastical rendition of history where they think that it was only white people that ever did anything bad, when in fact the truth is that even in terms of our own history, American history, it was the Africans that were selling the Africans to the Europeans.
Wow.
And usually for things as big.
Why did that system get set up, Candace? Why was that the case? Who implemented the system?
Excuse me, y'all. I need some water. All this doggone screaming I was doing outside of the video, but I just really want to know their thoughts on this in particular, and why they think differently.
That extractive slave trade was happening, a global colonial capitalist slave trade.
Where was the demand coming from for all those slaves that led them to
there were just some Africans working on behalf of a colonial system, something that, and on behalf of a racist system. I mean, it's just because they were forced, because that was the economy that was created. But anyway.
I mean,
Listen,
I think Candace Owens is a.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think everyone else can complete that thought in their head about the irony and Candace Owens pointing out.
I didn't want to say it.
Africans were selling out they're African. It's just,
that was what I was getting at, but I was like, should I go there? No, I shouldn't go there.
He's just look at me, if you want proof.
All right, keep going.
Basic as jinn and mirrors. I talk about this in that were selling the Africans to the Europeans, and usually for things as basic as jinn and mirrors. I talk about this in my book. It was really basic things. And when Europeans set out to end slavery, by the way, it was white men that were the first in the world to abolish the slave trade, right? People don't like that fact. Well, yeah. A very inconvenient fact from the narrative that
anytime there's a slave revolt, that is non-white people deciding that they want to abolish slavery. They were not empowered enough to do so.
In the end, it was the slave masters who decided to free the slaves.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally out of it. And they were just, and they
was it now, or was deep dive, because like the videos that I've reacted to that spoke on slavery, excuse me, from Thomas Sowell, and everybody has their own opinions and their own like way of everything. So this part, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little confusing for me because like I say, like I'm on this journey to know, like, I just resort into everything by default. I wasn't deep diving into things that I should have been deep diving in, but it's not too late for me to. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now. But yeah, this is just a little confusing, for them to say that, because I can't really say if it's a fact or fake or what this or that, or form my own, until I like really research it a little more on my own.
To that conclusion by dispassionately crunching the numbers in Microsoft Excel and saying this is inefficient, and by the way, yeah, maybe we should do something else.
Yeah, maybe she should take a look at like Haiti's history and the fact that for centuries they were having to pay reparations because they had a slave revolt, and paying reparations to slaveholders because they lost capital, or I don't know, like
I heard about that, like once slaves got, ooh, what the heck. I'm sorry, y'all. I just looked up and noticed that I got green on my hand, and I don't know why. But yeah, so I've heard about, ex-slaves having to pay reparations. I'm sorry, y'all. I was looking at the back of my head. It's probably just, But anyway, besides the point, but having to pay reparations, to the people that own them. Like, for what? I don't know. Is that like... I've heard that in more than one place. I've read that, I've heard that in more than one place, that, like, I just find that to be just so totally twisted and crazy. Like, so I'm gonna pay you after you held on to, like, took my freedom for...
It's just the same logic of the movie, like Mississippi Burning. The brave FBI came and liberated everybody for the civil rights movement, as opposed to just the reality of the situation.
No one ever gives Robert E. Lee enough credit for losing the Civil War.
Why sound like that?
Right.
Oh, and also Haiti's a good example to bring up too, because a lot of places that abolished the slave trade, or like a lot of people who felt differently about the slave trade, did so after the Haitian Revolution out of a fear of like what it might lead to personally in terms of violence for white slave owners. And that's why some places cracked down, some places abolished slavery as a result. Like, it wasn't out of the goodness out of anyone's heart.
No, they were
The National Republicans are spending $34 million against me. Can you chip in anything?
No, there were violent revolutions and rebellions for slaves, but it was just the white people decided after also a bloody war here in the United States that we probably shouldn't do this anymore.
This is like the conservative theory of change, like wrapped up in a little like package though. Like, things only change when people in power eventually decide to concede that they change, and so they are the only ones who deserve any like
or things could change if we actually use our votes the right way. But I do realize more now than ever, even though self-explanatory, that it's a lot of people that think different. Like, it's a lot of people that's trying to get you to come to their side or say this is the right way. No, that's not the right way. This is the right way. But if you actually sit down to, like I'm doing, research and read and watch, or whatever the case may be, talk to those who are older, or whatever the case may be, like, to just kind of just fill in your own blanks.
Reward for it.
Also, as to like which white people were deciding to stand up against slavery, it was basically PMC libs in the Northeast, the type of people that Candace Owens exists to propagandize against now.
Yeah, and the radicals that they would probably call like socialists today.
Oh, absolutely. They have them locked up.
Right. Keep going.
White people are evil and backwards. They were not the first to do it, but they were the first to end it. That is the truth. I think it was France first, followed by the UK, followed by America, that ended the slave trade.
How'd that happen?
Actually,
keep going.
Africans that fought and said, no, we want to maintain the system of slavery because it is good for us. So this is something, as I said, that can be traced back to people just being extremely ignorant about history, because everything has literally been transformed into a black and white narrative, pun very much intended.
Yeah, who capitalized, if you can give it, who capitalized on that system, right? Like, the proof is in the pudding. Like, why is Charleston, South Carolina, why does that exist, right? Who built that? And why is it still exist to this day? And it's because the capital was over here, and including laborers. They literally looked at it as like a capital investment. We own these people as property. Like, it's very obvious that this is not a it's not a. Well, she doesn't even think it's like a two sides. She's saying like actually the Africans are the bad guys here.
Are we good with her? Or that's it? That's it?
She really don't want to listen to her.
The Royal Africa Company. Look it up, folks. Look it up.
I learned a lot today about who's at fault for slavery. I would have gone in thinking the slave masters, but I've come out thinking the slaves. So, you know.
Someone should
And Kanye West pilled, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
Sounds like a choice.
You tuned into Candace.
I don't get the joke.
For more of that.
Welcome to Candace.
Every day Candace chooses to be free. Why didn't the slaves? Exactly.
Okay, and so we're gonna end the video right there like that. That was pretty interesting. That was most definitely pretty interesting. I've just been hearing so many different opinions. So, like, I'm new to taking a deeper dive into slavery. Like, of course I know about slavery, I know this, I know that, you know, but I didn't know basics, like not basics, but I didn't know the deep part about it. Like, I never knew the fact that blacks, you know, used to be slave owners as well. I kind of like, you know, maybe heard that some point in time in my life, but I never took the time to actually research it, or, you know, just want to know. Like, I just never wanted to know. And I'm like, how foolish of me, because, like, you know, I do watch news or this or that, I read this, but I never really cared to take a deep dive into politics, which is something that I think that everyone should do. You know, just having a say and a voice to actually vote the right people, you know what I'm saying, in office. But everybody has their own opinion. So I always say this, I say everybody has their own opinions or perspectives a lot, because you just never know. Like, you know, we can't just come to a simple agreement, but at the same time, you know, just trying to still be positive and hopeful, because I don't think everything is going to stay the same forever. Some things most definitely yes, because we're still doing things or going through things that happened hundreds of years ago. So not a whole lot of stuff. I mean, you guys know what I mean. I don't want to go into too much details, make the video longer than what it is. Maybe we'll save that video for another day. I hit myself in the throat. But anyway, y'all, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this reaction video just as much as I enjoy reacting to it. It was a little hard to actually sit through, because it just kind of made me want to kind of just take off and go research what they were saying, because I can't agree, I can't disagree, I don't know. Like, I'm a little confused now, you know. So, but comment down below, guys. Let me know your thoughts, what you want to see on this channel. Drop some links or, you know, recommendations, either or, however you prefer. And don't forget to also thumbs up this video, like it up. And also, guys, on the way out, if you are not subscribed, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and ring that bell, so when I drop a new video, you will know, you won't miss it, and you'll be right here. And as always, I appreciate you guys for coming through and kicking it with me. And until next time.